Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 9. Hello, welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. I am Gavin Patterson and I have my amazing, beautiful, hooded co-host, Julian Pombo.
Hey.
He's wearing a martial arts hoodie today.
It's the same hoodie I wear every single week.
Oh, I thought there was a smell.
It's not the coffee.
So, how are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
What's new?
Nothing new. Not that I can think of. Played an album launch a couple of weeks ago. That was fun.
Oh, cool.
At the Webster's Theatre. That was with Katie for her album Show Your Hand. I don't know why I'm plugging it. Listen to my bass playing.
No, plug your stuff.
Yeah. It's a good album. I enjoyed playing on it, and all the musicians on it are class. So if you like country music and it's your thing, check it out. If it's not your thing, give it a try. Who knows? You might come to like it.
So, today we are talking about management. It's kind of when someone says management, band management, you picture some sort of sleazy, middle-aged guy,
pseudo Donald Trump.
Yeah, I can cut you a deal.
I'll make you the hugest band.
The best band. We are the best band. My band is the best band. No band compares. No.
All that nonsense. Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's got that sort of like sleazy kind of connotation to it for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
A suit. But it's, I think more often than not nowadays it's not really like that.
No.
I have a couple of, stories from musicians I know, actually relations of mine who have been stung by management in the past. My second cousin, I think, had an AOR band. It's an album-orientated rock band back in the 80s, and they were quite successful. They're a band called Strange Ways. A couple of my cousins were in that band, actually. And they went through their whole career. They were quite big in Europe, kind of Germany.
Yeah.
Fairly well known. I think they charted in Europe. Not here. It was not as popular. They were kind of like Toto kind of vibe.
Right.
So kind of weird, poppy rocky, but with some prog elements thrown in there as well. I mean, they did really well. So it was a couple of Scottish guys, and I think they had an American singer, but they were signed up to a management company, and the management took most of their money to the point where they have basically nothing left to show for it.
Yeah. It's always negative stories you tend to hear about management as well. It's always the ones that come up to, you never hear a story of like, this so-and-so became really successful because of management. I suppose the only story like that comes to mind is the Beatles. And the
Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
There's another one. There's lots of good stories.
Yeah, but they never get told. It's like management seems to be like
the Beatles
airplane crash stories where you hear like loads about planes crashing, but you never get news about such and such plane landed safely.
So you count the hits and ignore the misses.
You count that, yeah, exactly. So you tend to which is why people are so scared of flying. It's just because it's
you're more likely
all the
to
time, but statistically it's so people get into cars which are like death machines on wheels.
I always think like if the car didn't exist and wasn't invented, and someone came up with the idea, I'm going to build a big metal box, put flammable liquid in it, and then put people in it, and then hurl it down a road at 70 miles an hour. What do you think? it would never be allowed in today's like health and safety age. Like it's mad. Like,
yeah, but it's kind of the same with it's the same with management. You hear all these horrible stories and of artists getting cheated over, which are good. It's good to know them, but it's not always like that. And management, like you were saying, it kind of like it's changed to the point where like I don't think a lot of people have managers anymore.
No,
the management is all done by the band themselves. You know,
totally.
It's
like
very rare.
98% of bands I record don't have a manager. They self-manage.
They self-manage.
There's a couple of bands I've worked with that do have a manager, and it's usually a friend or a family member or someone close to the band.
Yeah,
it's like that. That's usually the case.
Yeah.
On the professional level as well. Likes of the Doobie Brothers I said earlier. The reason for their success was because they used a pal. It was a friend.
Right.
It was a friend of the band, and he knew the band. He knew the guys, and it's like you guys, you need some direction here, management. How about I take care of like bookings and stuff? And they were like, yeah, okay, you know, like just sitting around smoking weed, and like, oh, you guys smoke so much weed, we should call you the Doobie Brothers. And that stuck. It became their name. And that guy was really good. I mean, he invested the Doobie Brothers money in like restaurants and small businesses and stuff, and got returns in money and
wow,
yeah, like he was a proper business head, and it wasn't just about the band; it was about the brand more than the band. Which and I think he's still the manager today after all these years, and the band's still going strong. I'm like, that's really good. So it's not 1973, it's not 1982, it's 2020, and the music industry is so vastly different from what it was. But there's some things that are still the same. And that is, you actually still do need management, whether it's within your own band or external.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest issues facing any band is the management. I would say like all bands, any problems that arise, like potential breakup or whatever, or the band just not being a band anymore, it's almost always to do with either lack of management or too much management. So like an example of that would be if too much management, if you picture that would be, say you've got a band of 6 people, and each band member manages or has an equal sort of say in absolutely everything. What ends up happening is you get 6 opinions, 6 ideas, 6 cooks, all pulling the band to bits in different directions. No one's agreeing on anything, and everyone just starts fighting. No one's taken authoritative control and leading and directing the band, and therefore it breaks up. And the other side of that would be not enough management, and I've encountered both myself, having been in a few bands in the past. Lack of management would be every band member in that band is waiting for another band member to book a gig or book the rehearsal. And in that situation, if you're like, oh, I wonder when Gary's going to book the rehearsal studio, I wonder when, you know, Steve's going to, you know, contact that recording studio. If you're in that situation, it's probably because you're the one that should be doing stuff. If nothing is happening and no one else is doing anything, then just take it upon yourself to do it. I've been in a couple of bands that was the case. You know, you would turn up at rehearsal. There was a kind of hard rock band I was in maybe 8 years ago. We would rehearse like every week, like maybe every Monday night or something. And we'd turn up and everything was dead positive, and you wouldn't hear a damn thing for the whole week. Like we would discuss things in rehearsal, like, oh, we need to get this stuff rehearsed for this gig, or we want to get into the studio and we want to record some stuff. We've got 8 tracks; they sound really good. We're really tight, and then it would go week after week, and we'd be rehearsing. I'm like, wonder when we're going to actually book that studio, or wonder when we're actually going to, you know. and then nothing would happen. We'd maybe play a gig, and then you would hear nothing for 3 months. And then, oh, do you want to get a rehearsal going? I'm like, who's taking charge of this? No one was taking charge of it. That's like everyone was asking everyone else, when are we going to do that? And then I'm sure you've faced that a few times as well.
Yeah.
It just kind of ends up being, it just fizzles out. And then, like, you actually never leave the band. Like, technically, I'm still in that band.
Really?
8 years later. But it's just been so disorganized that it just kind of didn't become a thing anymore. Like, that was it.
It just sort of fizzled itself out, destabilized.
Really, occasionally I'll get a call or a text from that old band and like, oh, do you want to meet up and have a practice jam? And I'm like, no, it's 8 years. No, I'm done with that. Like, it's not, but it's always nicer to have that kind of breakup than the other one.
Yeah. The other one where you're too hot-headed and you end up saying things you regret. Not done that before.
You know? Oh, I don't recommend it. Are you being sarcastic?
100% being sarcastic. You know me. You know what pombos are like. I'm 25 now. I've like to feel like I've matured. Like a fine wine, I've got subtlety now. Whereas before it was very much like if I saw something wasn't going the way that if I saw anything that was ever so slightly unjust, I would get really annoyed and angry and go, bleh, I did that once, and luckily for me, I like looking back on it, I wish I had been a bit more just grown up. I mean, how old was I? Like 20 years old, 21 maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was, I suppose it was like, around that kind of age, you end up being quite, you're coming out of like your teenage years and you're still a little bit self-centered. So it was all about how unjust and unfair it was for me. And like I decided that the best thing at the time for me was to leave. And instead of going about it in a grown-up way, in a grown-up manner, I had decided to do it in like the most childish, like stupid, like calling people out, being angry kind of way.
You mean like Jack Black at the start of School of Rock?
Yeah. Actually, I was basically like Jack Black. Yeah. Luckily, I'm still I was never in bad terms with those people, and I can, like they were quick to forgive, or they which is good because we've all grown up and don't hold grudges and stuff. But don't let your emotions get in the way. And if you see a problem with a band, or you feel that something's not going your way, just think about it. Like, because at the end of the day, it's not always. We like to make things about ourselves, but it's not really always about. Yeah.
It's a band. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a what do you call it? A democracy.
Like the from like a point of management, I think what was happening there was that there was not necessarily too much management from other people, but it got to the point for me where the person that was managing it was becoming a bit of a, I think, I don't know if megalomaniac is the right term. Dictatorish, yes. In that it was good in the sense of like, we're practicing then, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. But what was annoying for me was that although the management in that sense was good, it was not good in the sense that there was nothing getting done.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So like time was being spent, and in my opinion, it was the wrong way. And I tried to sort of say that, but instead of just pushing it and like trying to, be grown up about it and try to explain what I was thinking, I ended up just going me and acting like an absolute child, and pissing people off for a brief period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that. If there's too much, if somebody's being a bit of a dictator, or a tyrant, or whatever you want to call it, don't do that. Try and bring them down to your level, maybe, or try and talk them down, or never try to not be confrontational. If it's not happening, and you've tried everything, you've tried every single diplomatic route, that's when you leave.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I didn't even try any form of diplomacy. Now that I think about it, I basically did the equivalent of, a country going, "Oh, you don't agree with me? Nuclear strike," which is a total overreaction. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, the only experience I've had with that kind of band breakup, it's only happened once to me. The fizzling out thing was more. I think it's happened like 3 times in 3 different bands, but the big explosive end, that's only happened once, and it was. I can actually point to a specific time when it started to kick off. So the band was, when it was starting out, it was very clear that it was managed by a single person.
Yes.
In the band, and the rest of us all had a say, like an equal say. But at the end of the day, if things were pulling in directions that were away from what the manager's vision was about, and the manager happened to be the songwriter and the person contributing the most to the band, if it was pulling too far away, they would step in and say, "No, that's not what I see for this band." And then everyone would go, "Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, it's your songs, and it makes sense that you have an idea in your head."
Yeah.
But it's always you're open to suggestions, and it was never a dictatorship. It was never like that. But somewhere through the course of running the band, the manager kind of disappeared a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the band kind of continued on without that person's management. So what ended up happening is everyone kept picking up the slack and taking over managerial roles like booking rehearsal, making decisions on artwork, phoning venues, and blah, 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 blah. So when the guy comes back, right, I'm not preoccupied with something else, I'm back. The sort of managerial powers were not handed back to the person with the artistic vision. And what ended up happening is you had people who were contributing absolutely no artistic vision, no songwriting whatsoever, were making big decisions on creative choices in the band, which I disagreed with, because I thought it's not really your vision, and it wasn't my vision either, because I was just playing drums. I played a few instruments. I was playing percussion drums and other bits and pieces. I wasn't the sort of extreme of my contribution to that band was maybe play a B minor there instead of a F sharp minor, or just little contributions here or there. I wasn't here I wrote some lyrics. It was never that crazy. I was just taking the music that they had written and kind of putting my own sort of interpretation of that, and it would get either yes or no. And it was a slightly collaborative, creative process. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my song, and I was happy to let the big decisions, be made by the people managing the band. But totally. The other musicians in the band weren't happy about that and took it upon themselves to argue and fight, and the band exploded. Yeah, because you had people holding too tightly onto something which they had no right, really.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and the same could be said with Eriska. So Madeline Stewart, fiddle player, brings in a tune that she has written, and she's got a kind of idea of what she wants with it. And if we are busy arranging that tune, and it's getting too far away from the idea she had in her head. Yeah. She has a right to say, I like what you're doing, but I think for this tune, we'll keep it more like that. And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And the band, the people who have not got a sort of concept in their head and on a tune that they've written, you can't turn around to someone else and be like, oh no, I think it should go this way and you're wrong.
Yeah, totally.
It's open to suggestion, but just don't rain on someone's, creation, basically.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%.
That's kind of what happened.
That's true. Like if you bring in a tune and you're like, okay, I've done it plenty of times. I brought in a tune and I'm like, I have no idea where I want to take this, but here it is.
Yeah.
I've done it loads of times.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that, so like I'm quite happy for the process to just like let it evolve, But I think, I suppose what we're saying is that make your position
clear. Yeah. That's what I was about to come to, is like communication is just like, you cannot run anything without it.
Yeah, totally. So, and that's, it's important.
Yeah. So what was happening? An example, like like I'm saying, this project I was involved with all broke up. So what was happening is when management was not being taken care of by that single person, you had people booking rehearsals, you had another person doing this and another person doing that, and that's fine, but it needs a manager overseeing that whole process. But what was happening is these people were operating in a bubble. They had no communication with anyone else, so they were doing their own thing and then bringing it to the band. Like, whoa, we didn't agree to this. What? So, for example, things like rehearsal studio was booked, and then the person who has been newly designated to book rehearsal phones up, cancels the rehearsal, and books it in another venue because it suits them better. And then, oh, by the way, I cancelled our rehearsal in X studio and I've rebooked it in Y studio. And then everyone else is like, what? Well, now I have to get like 6 buses. The reason we do it in this studio is because it's central to us and blah, blah, blah. That's just one example,
Yeah.
But because there was no communication, there was no central person kind of
guiding,
touching base with everybody. Like, and I think based on that experience, right way back in the beginning, before Eriska started, Aileen Sweeney and I, when we kind of were talking about starting a band, well, it was actually originally going to be a wedding band, but it kind of fell by the wayside. But before we even started Eriska, we agreed upon a certain structure, and it was everyone has an equal say and contribution to the artistic vision of this band. And Aileen and I will always make sure that we are together, making sure that all these pieces of that band are all cohesive and are all working, and there's loads of communication between everyone. Because of that, as my experiences and her experiences have shown in the past, if you don't maintain communication, the band will break up. And to always maintain momentum. And that sort of structure, we've managed to keep that going for years. So Aileen and I started a band bank account, like a business account for the band, and we, take care of that. So we sort of have an agreement between us that we're not going to fall out. I mean, things can happen, but we just, it's like a core, just making sure that it's still getting pushed along. We all have good communication. We all have the same sort of goals and drives in this band. And so far it seems to be working.
So far it seems to be all right, yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, is communication. If there's no one person that's sort of taking care of all the little details, like the emails, the Facebook messages, the bank, the contacting venues, like just all the little things. If there's no one person overseeing all of that, I mean, some of these things can be delegated to other band members. But like, say someone has been delegated to make Facebook posts for the band. I think that's really good if that is someone's job.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think it should be cleared before posting, to stop things like, grammar errors or timing errors. You posted like the doors open at 6:30, but they don't. They're open at 7.
Or somebody in the band has like an episode and posts something absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Just checking it, like, which brings me on to central data bank.
Right.
You're like, what the hell does that mean? So the amount of times in a band that you get an email from like a radio show or a submission into Battle of the Bands competition or blah 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 blah. We need your artwork, we need your music, we need your press pack, blah 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 blah. Everyone should have access to that information. So the person who is allocated to do emails has access to all the data, all the media. The person who does all the Facebook posts has access to all the stuff. Because the amount of times that I get text from someone asking, "Oh, have you got the logos, PNG or JPEGs?" Like, it still happens to this day. And I would say, like, a workaround is a central Dropbox link, OneDrive link, something that everyone has access to with all of the band-related stuff, all the music, all the artwork, all the videos, all the files, so that it saves time people asking. It's all in there. If you need it, that's where it is.
Yeah.
It saves time and it saves arguments because, "Oh, can you send that to me? Oh, I'm busy right now. Oh, I need it now. Well, I can't do it now." There's probably lots of people listening right now go, "Yep, that's happened to me. Yep, that's happened to me." Just little things like that. And that's management. That is management at the end of the day, is having everything all structured out. You know where everything is. It just makes everything easier, especially when you're trying to work with 6, 7, 8 musicians sometimes, depending on how big your band is. So, moving on to... Yes, so I was talking about delegating tasks.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you've got like a 4-piece band or something, if you know that your guitar player, he's got an Instagram account, say, and he posts up like daily pictures. He's at like in his room and he's like, jamming out on his guitar. And he's really, really good at the social media posts. Give him the social media job.
Yeah.
Don't give it to the bass player who's like, he says 6 words during rehearsal and doesn't say anything to anyone, hasn't posted anything in 3 years. You go through his Facebook page, it's just happy birthday every year from his family.
Can you stop talking about me, please?
No, you're actually not like that. Although Julian's not a bass player, he's a bassist. There's a difference. The bass player is the worst guitarist in the band, so they gave him a bass guitar.
Almost as bad as the third guitarist.
Yeah. So I think you picked up the bass guitar because you wanted to learn how to play the bass guitar.
Yes, that's right.
Not because you were the worst guitarist in the band. That's the difference. But no, like, basically play to your strengths. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, like give your social media stuff to, exactly, like somebody who's really good at it. If you've got somebody in the band who is like very well connected, charismatic, knows people, maybe let them be in charge of bookings and emails,
or being the chat guy,
or being the guy that does the chat. It's kind of like in Eriska, kind of that's my job, is to entertain people with stories.
Yep. You're probably by far the wittiest person in the band.
Which is I don't know how we got there. I don't know what it says about the rest of the band, but
we're all pretty dour.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm pretty dour. Plus, I'm away up the back behind the drum kit. Like,
that's true.
Who's speaking? Who's that voice?
God, is that you?
Plus, have you ever tried to fit a mic stand next to a drum kit?
Next to a drum kit,
it's so hard.
It's a nightmare, yeah.
Plus feedback and...
Yeah. So
that's my excuse and I'm running with it.
Yeah. So yeah, like, do that. Like, delegate jobs to people's strengths. And it's just one of... I mean, it seems so obvious to say.
Yeah.
But like, you'd be surprised at how many people don't do that, you know? Like, I've been in bands where there's an example that comes to mind where I've been in a band and the person who has decided to manage it because it's their project and it's their thing that they want to do, it's their vision. They're managing it. They're not good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried. I've been in a situation where, like, you know, like most of the time, I'm just like a gun for hire, basically. You know, somebody just goes, "Can you play bass for me?" And I go, "Yes, I can." You know, as long as I get paid.
give me monies.
Yeah.
I think what would you do in that situation if like you go into a band and it's like their vision, their artistic vision, blah blah blah, but they're just really bad at it? What do you do?
Well, if you're a good-natured soul like me, you try and right. There's two ways to approach it. Right. You can be like me and be a total idiot and try and help. Right. And why, when I say be a total idiot and try and help, is because I say that's idiotic because it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's very rare. You can try it, see what happens. You never know. But like if you have experience and you're trying to give this person advice, they're not going to take it, right? From my experience. Or they'll go, "Oh yeah, man, yeah, totally, like 100%. I'll look into that and all that." And like, "Oh yeah, you're so right," and then nothing, right?
Tumbleweed.
Yeah. So, if you see that happening, you see that this person is trying to run this thing, and it's not moving anywhere. The best thing to do is just to get out, because it sounds really harsh.
Yeah.
But it's just gonna be a waste of your time, right? And the more that you do this, the more you'll come across this scenario. I'd like to say that it doesn't happen very often, but it happens more often than you think. So, but because of my particular, you know, how I am, how I think, my morality and all that, my moral standing, I'm not particular. I always go for that. I suppose, what would I be? I'm if I'm using D&D, morality and ethics, Dungeons and Dragons, I'd probably be a lawful good boy. The worst alignment ever. Go by the law and try and help as many people as you can. That's me, goody two shoes. So I was like, I'm gonna try and help. I'm gonna give them advice, and I tried that for ages and just didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I just eventually I just had to say, like, I can't do it anymore. And but because I went about it properly, it wasn't a problem. I just stated, like, here are my issues. This is why I'm leaving. Blah blah blah. And they were like, "That's fine. Actually, I totally get that. I totally understand where you're coming from. 100%. So yeah, if you see that somebody's being a tyrant, go away. Somebody has assumed the role of leadership and they're doing a terrible job at it, and doing nothing, and they're not willing to take on advice or change. Just go away.
Yeah, just leave.
Just leave. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of harsh
I mean,
reality.
I suppose the other option is, but it depends on your relation to this person, right? So because I was kind of hired for my services, let's say, I just kind of ended up, when I did think through it, and I thought maybe I should just manage it. And I was like, no, that's idiotic. Why would I manage a project that isn't mine? Do you see what I mean?
Well, a lot of managers do. I mean, like a professional management company would do that.
I know, but like that's so I mean that's another way you can look at it. But the fact that I was like, no, I don't want to manage it, kind of said a lot about my position. Again, I sound like a horrible person saying this, but it's just the truth, Like, yeah, I'm sure you've been in that situation.
Yeah, I think the thing with management, and some bands want to branch out and get a manager. See, sometimes in the past, at the time, I wasn't really fully aware of it. It's not until now I realise why they want a manager, and it's not to do with managing the band, getting things done. It's validation. It's personal validation. It's so that you can say, "We have a manager," right? It's that whole thing of just to look cool and be validated and be respected by others, and like, oh yes, our manager and blah blah. It's if you're doing it for that reason, you're completely thinking about it wrong. Yeah. Because the difference between managing yourself and getting a manager to do it for you, if you are on the fence whether you should do that, it's all about systems. Yeah. So a good manager has good systems. So what's a system? Like, I'll give you an example of a system. So dealing with emails. So a person who hasn't got a good emailing system is someone who has 40 emails coming in a day. They're not being filtered properly. They're just coming into one big inbox. They're not filtered by topic. They're not filtered by the actual content of the email. So you have to systematically go through them one by one, deal with each one individually. This isn't necessarily a band thing. This is just a business system thing. Yeah. But if say your main source of email in your inbox is coming from your website, and you go to the website and it's just a contact form with first name, last name, email address, and then a message box. What's going to happen is, say you own a company that sells something and people write to your company because, oh, this product you sold me is broken, or this product hasn't arrived yet, or blah, 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 blah. A person who has good systems will have a form that has a series of checkboxes or drop-down menus. Does this apply to you? Does this apply to delivery status? Does this apply to, malfunctions or breakages, and the reason why you have to fill that stuff in forms is because the person managing those email accounts is really good at systems. Yeah. So when it comes into the inbox, you know before you even click on that email what it's going to be about. Yeah. And you can systematize each thing, get through each thing faster. You can make template emails and template responses because 9 times out of 10 it'll be the same request over and over and over. So a manager has got multiple really good working systems, a good manager, where they're able to deal with lots and lots of problems really, really efficiently. That's anyone in any business, a good business that runs really well, is a system. It's dealing with high volume really, really effectively and not dealing it like case by case. Like having started my own business, you get to grips with this pretty quickly. If you're getting lots of emails or you're getting lots of clients and your systems aren't good, you can end up working really, really, really hard for really long hours if you don't have a system in place. Like, being a studio, people book my studio for time.
Yeah.
And a system, I had to invent a system to spend less time getting times off people. So I would get an email, say 5 clients are trying to book in, and they would email me, oh, I'm free last week in March, this day, this day, this day. Then I would email back, here's my availability, this day, this day, this day. And it would be like 3 email exchanges per person. And I'm doing this with 5 people all at the same time. I'm constantly emailing. So I'm like, how about a booking software? Right, that's a system. And managers, a really good manager, is really good at systematizing things, whereas you might not be. And if the decision to get a manager is based on, I think this person will have better systems for coping with lots of emails and, selling merch and all that, and they're better at creating those systems than me, I think we should get a manager. That's the right reason for doing it. Someone who's their ideas are aligned with you. They're willing to work with you. This is my creative vision. I wrote these songs. I want you to use your systems to try and, prop up this band, keep it going, rather than us all flying around. What are we going to do? An example of a system in Eriska.
Yeah.
We have a merch store, an online store on our website. Mm-hmm. So when someone buys a t-shirt or a CD from our merch store, it's Dario, the guitarist, and me that take care of all the online sales. Dario has a box of CDs, and I think he has t-shirts as well, although I think we've just ran out.
We need to get some more.
We need to get some more. So he has a box of t-shirts and a box of CDs, as do I. He also has PDF files with, when we package up our stuff, we have little printout PDF stuff with promotional stuff, like, thank you for your purchase, here's our website if you want to check out more, here's a link to our Spotify. We have all that stuff that we package up all nicely together. And whenever an email comes in, someone's made a purchase on your website, Dario gets a notification, as do I, and then we communicate to each other. I'll get this one, you get this one, depending on which one of us is busy. So if Dario is busy, I'll say, I'll take this one, and then I get it all printed off and done. It's a really good system, and we just work together on that, and there's good communication. That's an example of a good system. A bad system is if there's 2 people delegated to do that and they don't communicate, and you end up sending the poor person 2 CDs. Well, no, it's not poor person, they've got 2 CDs out of it. So that's a bad system. So that's essentially what management is. It's just trying to do it right, trying to get everything all aligned and running smoothly. It's kind of as simple as that.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
You can do it yourself.
But it gets to a point where you're going to be working so hard on trying to get your systems right that you've not got time to actually make music. That's when you should get a manager.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I guess that answers the question, should I get a manager?
Mm-hmm.
Is your managing taking up too much of your time?
Yeah.
If so, yes.
I would say, I would add to that and say, I'm spending more time managing this band than playing in it. 2 questions you should ask yourself. Have I maximized my systems?
Spot on.
And if the answer is yes, then get a manager.
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is no, then
make it better.
Make it better. Instead of texting everyone or messaging everyone on Facebook saying, who's free for rehearsal this time or this time? No, make a doodle poll. Send out a doodle poll. Yeah, but it works.
It works.
Right.
Everyone hates it, but it works.
Send out a doodle poll. A doodle poll is it's a website that you can pre-select time slots, and then people put a wee tick for when they're free, and then you see who's all free, and then you go, we're booking this date, this date, this date, and it saves so much time, and it's great. So it's stuff like that
you
can do before you can say, right, I've systematized everything to the best of my ability, and I'm still really busy. I think it's possibly time we should think about a manager. Now, paying a manager, the sort of going rate, I think.
What is the going rate?
It's anything between 10 and 20%. So
of
what
the
you make. Band's income, yeah, per year or per month or however you want to go. Typically, 10% is a number that's thrown around all the time. So that incentivizes the manager to make as much money for the band as possible so that he can get paid more.
Yep.
Usually starting out, 20% is usually what's thrown about, and the longer the manager's with you, that percentage usually goes down. That's kind of the old model of doing it. And it's quite a good model because it's incentivizing good work over, for example, I used to charge per hour for the studio.
Right.
And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, everyone else does that. All the other studios do that. They just charge per hour. And I thought, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's standard. But then I kind of thought about it. It's actually really bad because charging per hour incentivizes the artist to spend less time in the studio getting their song right, which in turn can possibly lead to a worse song because they've not spent as much time as they should have to keep it cheaper for them. So I flipped it round and made it per project, and said unlimited recording hours, so they can spend as much time as they want in the studio for that set price. So now it's incentivizing them to stay as long as possible in the studio, thus making the song better because they're spending more time on it, they're more attention to detail. And it's a race to the top in quality instead of a race to the bottom to try and keep the price down. And that's kind of how management works. The more money they make for the band, which is good, they make money for themselves. So I think that's a pretty good system. And you can always negotiate with a manager saying, "Oh, I demand 25." You don't be just like, "Yep, sure, handshake done." Yeah. You can haggle, you can negotiate, and if you've got your own, you know what you need, you know how much money you're making. Yeah. It's your thing at the end of the day. They don't own anything. It's your thing. And just read the paperwork if that's involved. But the sort of the main thing here with regards to management, I think I talked about it a little bit before, is the main sort of problem with not just bands but just human interaction in general. What causes most fights and arguments and stuff, especially in like relationships, is uncommunicated expectations. Say one person.
I suppose it's like a form of lack of communication, I guess, which we've sort of touched on. But
So it's like, oh, I was expecting you to, do this thing, and you haven't done it, and then, well, you didn't say you were wanting that. Like, for example, two people, one person has a birthday. It gets to their birthday, and you didn't get me a birthday present this year. Oh, I didn't know didn't know we were doing that anymore. Oh yeah, well that's uncommunicated expectations. That person was expecting a birthday present. The other person didn't deliver. But that person is not guilty because they didn't know they were supposed to deliver, and that's an uncommunicated expectation.
Yep.
And if you just can't keep communication open, it's just always a good thing.
Yep.
I would say. I don't think there's any
basically
example that it wouldn't apply.
Don't beat around the bush. Just just say it how it is. Because honesty is like, not only is honesty ethically a good thing, but it depends on how you view it. But it's the quickest way to get a point across and to get things done, right? So I suppose it's very much a British problem, can I say? Because hear me out. I'm from. So my family is from Argentina, and culturally we're very, it's very different. We don't really tend to beat around the bush or or worried about being, polite. If something's up and we don't like it, we'll just say it. Or I guess that's just my mum. But if something is if something's unjust or isn't going the way it should be, we'll just say it how it is. Whereas people here, are too afraid of, in general, I'm generalizing culturally. You live in we live in a society which is very much like you bump into somebody and it may not be your fault, but you'll apologize first, kind of thing. Like, we don't want to appear, you don't want to appear rude, and confrontational or whatever. Being honest it may seem like you're being rude. You're not. You're just saying how it is.
Yeah.
And people need to hear that, because that's how you get something going, and that's how you keep things going. And it saves time.
It's a lot of time. Yeah. I've had, just talking about like honesty and being like open with communication, I've seen it in bands I've been in and bands I've recorded and just people I've worked with, where the guitarist or the bass player or someone in the band is playing the wrong chord in the song.
Yeah.
And everyone else in the band knows it, but doesn't tell that person in fear of becoming, being rude or being confrontational.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like, the person he's playing the wrong chord and he's not aware of it. Make him aware of it. Like, you're all in this band together. Like, I've actually pulled people aside and gone, he's playing, a totally different chord from you. Yeah, I know. I'm like, and no one thought to tell him that? Oh, like, well, what are you doing? Like, come on, it's like you're trying to do a thing together. You're trying to, it's a band, it's a cooperative thing. Just come out. By the way, I think that chord you're playing's wrong. I think this is what it's meant to be. Okay, moved on. Like, just save the time of discovering this when your sound engineer goes, what are you doing?
And the longer it goes on, actually, the more awkward it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, this person, I'm going to assume bass player, like, is playing the completely, is playing a completely wrong root note. And you're just gonna, like, just tell him straight away, right? Because if you wait until much later, he's gonna be playing it like that for ages and ages, and then you suddenly tell him, "Oh yeah, see that song we've been playing for months in public?
Yeah,
you've actually been playing that bit wrong." He's not gonna be like, "Oh, okay, cool, I'll change it." He's gonna be like,
"Why didn't you?
Why didn't you tell me?"
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me this sooner?
Yeah. It's a disservice to the person and the band as a whole.
You're going to end up with more confrontation. It's like, I suppose it's like the same way as, like, when you're taking off a plaster, just rip it right off. Just just do it. Don't think about it. Because the more you agonize and like, it's going to hurt,
Yeah, totally. And that doesn't mean like, dude, you're playing the wrong note. What are you doing? Are you stupid? Are you just terrible at your music? No, like, be nice. I think, I don't know. Are you playing D? I'm pretty sure it should be a D chord there. Oh, okay, that's fine. But like, don't be like, what are you doing? You useless. Like, don't
you sack of flesh.
Yeah, don't come on too hard. I mean, there's a sort of fine balance between honesty and a fine line between honesty and just brutalness. Like, don't be brutal. Brutally honest. Depends on the person. If the person can take it, then by all means. But try and do the George Martin thing. You get Phil Spector, the famous producer, who produced people like the Beatles, and that take was awful. You're a terrible musician. You should quit. that's how he would operate. Now he's in jail, but that's a separate issue. Whereas George Martin would be like, that was good. Do you think maybe we could do possibly another take? I like the quality of what he's saying is, that take was terrible. I want to do another one, but he's saying it in a nice, subtle, gentlemanly,
Yeah.
But he's still delivering the point. He's still getting the point. He's just softening the blow a little bit, but he's still moving the thing along. He's not just ignoring it, which is what most people do.
Yeah,
that was good. I'll fix it in post. Fix it in post. Fix it. No, you do not fix it in post.
No, just go. Yeah, that was good. Let's do another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
more energy.
Yeah, that was better. Let's do one. Let's do another one just for good luck.
Yeah,
stuff like that. You'll hear that a lot.
What I tend to do is don't emphasize what they were doing wrong. Emphasize what they were doing right.
Yeah.
Say, instead of going, it was a bit off there, you're kind of sharp on that note. Go, I really like that strong bit in the chorus. Yeah, do more of that. That's really cool.
Except
positive reinforcement instead of,
except Gavin doesn't really do that with me anymore. He just goes, that was pretty crap. And I go, yeah, you're right.
yeah, because you're a pal and it's fine. It depends how you know the person, Yeah. So that
kind of wraps it up.
That's kind of anything that we've got to say in the future. We'll cover it in other podcasts. Yeah. But if there's anything that you find useful from this, let us know.
Mm-hmm. If you have any further questions about management, get in touch. If you're a manager or aspiring to be a manager, get in touch as well and tell us stories and whatever, and we'll look into them. We'll read them and we'll maybe feature them on the podcast
we have speaking of contact forms, we have a contact form on our website www.levelupyourband.com, and if you've got any questions in it, we'll try to answer them. And always leave us a nice shining 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and what have you. But that kind of wraps up this episode. And next week we're going to be talking about gear,
music gear, not the
other gear,
not the other gear,
any gear. So until then,
bye.